Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your back porch professor here. We're having some beautiful weather in November here in the Northeast. Could it have anything to do with the fact that so many New Yorkers are flocking south? Because that's exactly what's happening. I mean, it's barely been, 72 hours since Zoran Mamdani won the New York City mayor's race. And not only is Florida real estate booming, but the scandals are already piling up faster than all the luxury condos getting sold as we speak in Miami. Seriously, the fallout from what happened on Tuesday is absolutely jaw-dropping. And it's starting to make everyone, literally everyone, question whether or not the Democrats really won on Tuesday. So let's start with what happened the moment Mamdani won. Literally minutes after the race was called. Right? Literally minutes. Real estate agents in Florida had their email accounts blowing up. We're talking we're not talking about a few calls here or there, a few inquiries. No, one Miami developer by the name of Isaac Toledano, he reported, I kid you not, he reported over $100 million in signed contracts from nervous New Yorkers in just the past few months, doubling what they got in the entirety of last year. $100 million in signed real estate purchases. It's incredible. I mean, you want an investment idea? I'm sure it's too late, but if you could snag some Southern Florida properties right before the wealthy New Yorkers flood the market, you'll be sitting pretty. But of course, no investment advice here for sure. Get this, you're going to love this stat. This is from Virtual Hangar. Okay, that's a private jet booking platform, Virtual Hangar. They're reporting a 42% spike in private jet requests from New York to Florida in the 36 hours following Mamdani's election win. A 42% spike in private jet requests from New York to Florida. About 38% of those flights were headed directly to Palm Beach, right near Mar-a-Lago in West Palm Beach, right? And another 40% to Boca Raton, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. But here's where it gets very interesting, because this isn't just about taxes. This is about trust. And Mamdani is already breaking it. So speaking of private jets, did you hear what he did right after winning that election? I kid you not. He actually jetted off to a luxury resort in Puerto Rico for some conference with a bunch of, all the big Democrat donors and the like. So this is a guy who campaigned on giving people free stuff, who then is now hanging out with political insiders and lobbyists. Congressman Mike Lawler, the Republican, absolutely slammed him for it. Here's a self-described Democrat socialist who spent his entire campaign demonizing the wealthy, and his very first move as mayor-elect is to live it up at a luxury resort among the wealthy. I mean, the hypocrisy is just beyond breathtaking, but that's what you get with champagne socialists, right? And then to make it even worse, you may have seen this, but Mamdani announced an all-female transition team, and the media initially praised it as historic and wonderful, as they always do. But dig deeper and you'll find something rather disturbing. The co-chair is a woman by the name of Lina Khan. She's Biden's former FTC chair, who has reportedly significant ties with George Soros' dark money networks. And again, and this is key, she's as Democrat establishment as you can possibly get, which is precisely what Mamdani campaigned against. So much for disrupting the establishment, right? Mamdani's filling his administration with the very same failed Democrat operatives from the de Blasio era, the Bloomberg era, Biden era. And then, of course, to add insult to injury, Mamdani actually turned around and asked all his supporters for money right after he won. He literally begged his supporters for money to help fund this transition, even though the transition is fully paid for by state funds. Again, the guy who promised free stuff to all his supporters turns around, and the very first act he does is he asks those very supporters to pay up. Now, what's so fascinating here is that the whole Mamdani saga is actually just reigniting the Democrat civil war that we've talked about a lot in the past. Pro-Palestinian progressives versus pro-Israeli liberals. And the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, right, which in many ways is the leader of the pro-Israeli liberal faction among Democrats, they took the unprecedented step of launching a dedicated Mamdani monitor website and tip line. Have you heard about this? Fox News just ran a report on this. The ADL, which again is as liberal as you can get, they are entirely Democrat. By its nature, it's radically pro-Israeli. They launched a dedicated online Mamdani monitor and tip line specifically to track all the anti-Semitism concerns under his administrations. So if you thought New York City was somehow united behind this guy, I mean, you're living under a rock. He's ignited this civil war. He split the left. He split probably, I don't know, 60-40, with 40% of New York Democrats wanting nothing to do with this guy whatsoever. Now, while some are staying and fighting, as I noted earlier, others, particularly the ultra-wealthy, ain't sticking around New York City to find out what's about to happen there. So luxury waterfront properties that typically sit on the market until Thanksgiving in Florida, they're gone. They're entering contracts at an absolutely unprecedented pace. And here's the twist. It's not even New Yorkers who are buying up yet. It's Floridians rushing in to purchase them up before the expected exodus of refugees from New York drives prices through the roof. And that's the irony with Mamdani. One real estate agent in South Florida is basically calling him COVID 2.0. Remember, it was during COVID when Florida set itself apart as a state of refuge, like the biblical cities of refuge, right? Where literally millions across the nation flocked to Florida to find freedom. Freaking Mamdani is being likened to a virus. That's the effect that he's having. He's about as popular among a number of New Yorkers as a pathogen, as a disease. Ironically, though, again, all of this was so predictable. I mean, we've talked about this numerous times. The further left urban Democrat leadership lurches, the more their cities shrink. It's a pattern that we've seen over and over again. The technical term is de-urbanization, and it's been happening for at least the last 2 decades. Ultra-left Brandon Johnson's Chicago, it is currently now at its lowest population in a century. Nearly 200,000 people have left Karen Bass's LA since 2020. Baltimore, which was the biggest city in the nation back in the 19th century, well over 1 million residents just up to a few decades ago, they barely have 500,000 residents today. I mean, we could keep going. Detroit, Cleveland, St. Louis, and now New York. It's being called the death of the American city. Our cities, which are run by Democrat monopolies, have basically become failed states. To call them Mogadishu would be an insult to Mogadishu. And the more they double down on their liberal lunacy, the more failed they become, which means the more population they lose. So it's a completely unsustainable model. At some point, these cities are just going to keel over and socially implode. Unless, of course, Trump and the MAGA movement can make these cities great again. Freedom cities are the future. And that's something we'll be talking a lot about on this channel in the days ahead, especially given that the Mamdani disaster is just getting started. Love you guys. Have a wonderful weekend.